Hey everyone, apa khabar? We've previously looked at the prefix "mer" and what it does when it comes before a noun, adjective, or verbs. Specifically for "mer" and verbs, what we didn't mention is that not all verbs would carry the "mer" prefix. There will be cases where you'll see "BER" with verbs, and this is what we want to address in this video. So before we start, let's establish that the BER prefix is sometimes spelled without the R. So it's either BER, BER, or BE, BER. And also, BER can also be combined with nouns. But for this lesson, we'll focus on just BER with verbs. So let's look at these four verbs: fikir, kerja, diri, and lari. For these examples, you may see them with makan, memikirkan, or melarikan, but you won't see them with just me prefix. The addition of makan would produce transitive verbs, which means that the action is being done on or with an object. So for intransitive verbs, we won't use me, but we use ber prefix. Berfikir, bekerja, berdiri, berlari. So these verbs would not need an object. They can stand on their own, and that's the first usage of the ber prefix. So let's look at a few examples to understand this further and compare ber with me and kan. Let's start by looking at the verb diri, which means to stand. So berdiri also means to stand. Kucing tu berdiri atas dua kaki. Kucing tu berdiri atas dua kaki. That cat is standing on 2 feet. So the cat is standing on its own. The action is being done on itself, by itself. So this is different from mendirikan, which means to make something stand or to build. Dia mendirikan rumah. Dia mendirikan rumah. He built a house. Or in other words, he made a house stand. So the action is done on something else, not the person itself. And that is the difference between having me, kan, and ber with a verb. The word bekerja comes from the verb kerja, and both mean to work. Suzy bekerja dekat Melaka. Suzy bekerja dekat Melaka. Suzy works in Melaka. In comparison, mengerjakan also comes from the verb kerja, but it means to work on something. Suzy mengerjakan tanah datuknya. Suzy mengerjakan tanah datuknya. Suzy worked on her grandfather's land. So the action is done on the land, whether it's being developed or Suzy had started a plantation. So that's the difference between bekerja and mengerjakan. Next, berlari comes from lari, and they mean to run, while melarikan is to run something away or to steal. Jim berlari ke rumah sebab hujan mula turun. Jim berlari ke rumah sebab hujan mula turun. Jim ran home because it was starting to rain. And this is different from Jim melarikan kereta dari rumah. So this means Jim stole a car from home. And some of you may ask, Is there such a thing as berlari kan? The answer is no. But you can simplify things by just omitting the prefix. Jim larikan kereta dari rumah. So the meaning of the sentence still retains. It still means Jim stole a car from home. And what about the example for the prefix ber? Jim berlari ke rumah sebab hujan mula turun is the same as Jim lari ke rumah sebab hujan mula turun. So it's the same as when we looked at the prefix me, me. Both prefixes me and ber are used mainly in formal settings, not in spoken Malay. And this is only if the prefix comes with a verb, because it still produces a verb, the meaning of the word doesn't change. So for learning purposes, to simplify things and to avoid confusion, you can just use the verb on its own without the prefix ber or me. So instead of saying Suzy bekerja di Melaka, which sounds kind of formal, you can just say Suzy kerja dekat Melaka. And this is the way that we've used examples in all of our lessons previously. We only use the infinitive of the verb without any prefixes. Instead of saying dia mendirikan rumah, as in our example earlier, you can just say dia dirikan rumah. The other example was kucing tu berdiri atas dua kaki. If you want to keep it simple, you can just say kucing tu diri atas dua kaki. However, there are two common verbs that will almost always come with ber. Berhenti and berenang. So for these two, it would sound strange if you just keep it as henti or renang. You would still be understood, but the more common intransitive form would be berhenti and berenang. So that's the first usage of the ber prefix, which is to define an intransitive verb. Another usage of the ber prefix, such as in the usage of bertumbuk or bergaduh, is to show a reciprocal action, means that it involves more than one person. So tumbuk is to punch, but bertumbuk shows that the action of punching involves more than one person. So it's punching each other. Bergaduh comes from gaduh, which is to fight. So bergaduh means to fight each other, and it involves more than one person. Diorang bertumbuk dalam bilik. Diorang bertumbuk dalam bilik. They were punching each other in the room. So in this case, they are the subject of the sentence, and also they themselves are the object. Awak bergaduh dengan dia lagi? Awak bergaduh dengan dia lagi? So this can mean a few things. Are you and he still in a fight? Or in other words, are you still fighting him? Or it can also mean, did you fight with him again? But in all cases, the action is reciprocal, means that the action is by both parties towards each other. So that's another usage of the ber prefix. So okay, keep in mind this is the prefix ber with a verb. For the prefix ber with a noun, we will have to look into that in another lesson.